Hello, I'm Honor Belew. Welcome to the From the Top podcast series, where we have interesting conversations with interesting business leaders. Today, we're talking with Jeff Engle, who is CEO of a holding company called Capital E, which is an investment business. Also, ArkAngel, a consulting business, excuse me, focused on national security and emerging technologies. And he's also executive chairman for government internal defense at BlueVoyant. Thank you, Jeff, for making time to be here today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Honor.
It's nice to see you. So tell us more about what you do.
So I've spent my entire career focused on what I perceive to be the greatest threats to national security. It started with weapons of mass destruction, and then got into counterterrorism, and then global infectious disease, and eventually cybersecurity. So for the last 7 years or so, I was building Conquest Cyber. Started it in 2018 after a stint with the parent company. And that was focused on building cyber resiliency for the sectors that are critical to our way of life. So we supported every aspect of governments and at every level, and critical infrastructure like power and water treatments and emergency services. Then the end of last year, I was able to sell that business to BlueVoyant, where I've stayed on as executive chairman for that for the government side of that business globally. And now the other businesses that you mentioned, I've taken what is a little bit more free time than I had building something from scratch to give some attention to the next greatest threat to national security, which is really artificial intelligence and data integrity. Really, you can't trust anything that you hear anymore, and this technology is advancing so rapidly. Cybersecurity is still extremely relevant, but now there's kind of the next horizon. So that's where I'm spending my days.
So that's all very fascinating. It must be, very exhilarating to be on the front end of all these things that are going on, and being able to make a difference with that.
Yeah, it's what I've discovered. Keeps me motivated. There's a lot of things that people get passionate about, but I found that short distractions are no comparison for something that you think about every day. And that's in Japanese terms, the ikigai, the thing that connects what I'm good at, what the people are willing to pay for, what is really needed, and keeping the focus on national security and the country that gave me the opportunity to go from where I was to where I am is fueled the passion over time.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And like you said, it is so inspiring, or I guess encouraging, to be able to connect your passion with what you do on a daily basis, because we spend so much time at work. It's important, if you can do that, it can help you keep motivated, stay motivated, right?
Yeah, I think that may be especially true for your audience. People who have to, as Elon Musk put it, chew on glass and stare into the abyss of building businesses. If you don't have something that's bigger, a purpose bigger than yourself, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to take on something that's challenging. There's immense amount of risks. Having to pay yourself and be responsible for the livelihood of other families, and it's incredibly difficult generally. But I can't imagine even attempting or having any desire to sit in the chair, as CEOs refer it, if it wasn't for having that bigger reason.
Couldn't agree more. It definitely helps to kind of keep your eye also on what your ultimate goal is, what you want to achieve. So now that your things have changed a bit for you recently, selling your business, what's your focus over the next 5 years?
So it's continuing to carry out the mission that started, now with a lot of additional resources. I bootstrapped that and essentially didn't take on any outside investment. So now being in an organization that's much better funded, going to have an exponential impact. So keeping the eye on that, and then trying to stay ahead of the curve on the next greatest threats, and solving the problems at scale, building teams. The thing I've really found that I have passion for beyond the purpose of securing our sectors critical to our way of life is building the next generation of talent. I really enjoy working myself out of jobs, and finding people that have the passion and the grit and the skill that can be developed to take on bigger and bigger challenges. So that's how I'm going to be spending my time, is just coaching, teaching, mentoring people who have a similar purpose, especially ones that that have a little bit more belief than they have the ability to execute, because helping to bridge that gap between what they want to do and what is possible for them has been something that gives me satisfaction.
Yeah, I love how you phrase that they've they have more to learn about how to do it. They know what they want to do. They just need to learn a little bit more about how to do it. And so that's a nice contribution that you're making by committing to developing people. Not everybody wants to do that. A lot of people want to find somebody that already can do it and then just plug them in. But I think the true value is when you can take somebody that's not there yet and get them to the next level for you and for them.
Yeah. And a lot of people question how you define success. And, my definition of success is really going to be determined what people say about me when I'm gone, not necessarily what they say about me while I'm here. And it's those people that, at least in my experience, that told me, that they believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself, that, that I will be saying things about. So that's kind of what I have aspired to, is, taking the people that others would look over, knowing that I was one of those people, and there was a handful of people throughout my career who were willing to take a shot on me. That if I can give that back to a handful of people, then I feel like it was all worth it along the way.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm always curious about how people define success, because there's no two that are the same, really, right? There's some that are similar, but everybody is driven to achieve things for different reasons. So fascinating. So when you think about success, who comes to mind for you as someone that you would say has found success?
I have almost everyone that I can think of that told me that to ignore what other people might say, or that that there was that they believed in me. All of those people I define as successful. Right? If they're at a point in their development that they can have an impact on others, and that they're at a point in their confidence that they're not threatened by bringing up the next generation of leaders. That to me is success. And I have friends and mentors throughout my career that I can look back to that they range from being on public company boards and having had illustrative careers as public company CEOs, to people who spend their time in in military or government service. Their bank accounts say very different stories, but to me that they're at equivalent levels. In terms of were they successful? Could they sit down and at the end of their life and say that they left everything on the field? And I think both of those are true, whether they are created generational wealth for their children, or they had people and their children that they inspired to continue to do more than they took away from our society.
It's definitely not all about money. Anytime you ask people about success, for sure. So thank you for sharing that. So what would you say, Jeff, I'm curious, you've done some fantastic things. What would you say have been your biggest learnings in life and in business?
I would say the biggest thing I've learned is that no one's advice is really worth the air it's printed on. It's informative, but it's more informative about, where they are in their perspective than what you're able to do. It's, it's people that say, they can solve a particular problem, or that just say, hey, I believe that you can go find a way, which isn't really advice, that has had far more impact than people who, were overly free with their opinions about how to do something. There's always in communication, there's the sender, the receiver, and the feedback, and all three of those I would say are equally important. But I've learned that, sometimes you have to believe more than anybody else possibly could in order to accomplish, really hard or impossible or seemingly impossible things, in spite of all the evidence in front of you. I think that's really true of, entrepreneurs and people who, and that I think are successful in the special operations community. Everybody along the way told them all the reasons why they couldn't do it, and they did it anyway. So that's probably the biggest thing. I would never discourage anybody from anything, other than my children sticking, metal objects in light sockets. Yeah, I think that most experiences in life are beneficial, even if they're painful, because that builds upon a foundation of knowledge that you can apply elsewhere. So that's the biggest thing I've learned, in business and life. And the only other thing that I think is probably critically important is that how other people have done it is more likely to fly you into a mountain than it is to make you successful. I use a lot of, flying analogies, something that, I learned, how to do a few years ago, and it was really informative because it's the closest thing I've found to running a business and flying an airplane. You have to kind of know how to do everything to be a licensed pilot. You have to, know how to be a mechanic. You have to be an expert in fuel. You have to be a weather person. You have to be a navigator. Almost the least important component of it is how to take off and land the airplane. Very similar to being a CEO, the planning things out and being able to adapt when the plan doesn't work, is, like every air flight doesn't go exactly to plan, and every business doesn't go exactly to plan. But the process of planning and understanding all aspects of it determine whether you're a success or failure. Other people have, give me advice along the way that you should just let the experts handle that. If you have a legal issue, talk to the lawyers. If you have a financial issue, talk to your CFO. And what I found is nobody's really 100% of the time that good or has all of the context. So if you don't have at least a decent understanding of those different corporate functions, then you're likely to fly the airplane into the mountain. And that's why I've kind of been a lifelong learner and encourage everyone else to, like, ask for advice, but know 60 to 70% of the answer, if at all possible, so you can call BS, because not all lawyers are the same. Not all financial experts are actually experts. And if you don't have enough baseline understanding, you're likely to end up having a disaster on your hands.
Yeah. I think, I've always believed that for CEOs and business owners, you can ask for advice, you can get input. I think it's important to seek input, but you still get to make the decision. Don't let other people make the decision for you, right? Don't, like you're saying, don't believe that they know better and just go with it because of whatever they've achieved or whatever their background is. Just take it all in and mull it over, and then make your own decision.
Yeah. And it's a risk management decision, right? Everything in business is risk management. And successful entrepreneurs are typically less risk averse than others. I mean, you have to have a high risk tolerance just to do it.
Yeah.
So tempering that is important, but at the same time, the trade-offs that have to be made, nobody else on the field is going to understand.
Absolutely. Until you're in the game, you don't really know how it's going to work, right?
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for a 22-year-old? We've talked a lot about this, but anything specific for a 22-year-old just starting their entrepreneurial journey?
Um, I think something that I didn't do that I might have done differently. Because when I was 22, I was in special operations. I had, at that point, been in the Army for 5 years, and I basically was in my dream job, and uh, it actually ended up being the experiences I had there and the network that I built that helped me be successful. 18 years later. Uh, so to a 22-year-old anyone, it's um, learn everything you can and build as strong a network as you can. And along the way, keep your integrity. So if you don't know how to do something, you can't do, you aren't capable of doing it, or you don't know 100% that you're going to be able to follow through, then don't make commitments, because people remember really two types of people more than anything else: those who were there for them when they needed it, and those who let them down when they needed it. So, keep your integrity and build your network, and then always be learning. Those things are far more valuable than any other specific degree path or career path, because people want to help. They ultimately want to help if you demonstrate that you can be trusted and that you give more than you receive, then I think it's nearly impossible to be anything but successful.
That's great advice. So anything else you'd like to share about what you're doing now, and now that you've sold your business, your life is different? How are you focusing your time?
So now it's really just transitioning to helping and picking the next big problem to solve. So I'm investing in businesses that are doing things that impact emerging technologies and national security. Continue to be open to sitting on boards and advising others. And I think, like you, I'm in the Nashville region, where we've got just a incredible growing technology scene that with the introduction of Oracle and their global headquarters, it's gonna impact the establishment of probably hundreds of additional businesses. So I'm always open to helping, because those other people have helped me, and I think building the talent here and trying to keep this area the integrity of what we had in Tennessee, while we can become a hotspot for emerging tech, is something that I'll apply some of my time to. But anything that comes down the pike, anything that I think could fundamentally upset the balance of our way of life and the drive that we have to be better and do better as a city, as a state, as a country, I'll be open to jumping in that particular fight.
All right. Well, very fascinating. It's amazing what you've achieved. Appreciate you being with us today. Any final words?
No, I hope people are paying attention and they continue to invest in themselves, and seek out advice, assistance, and the network, because it takes all of us to do this. Nobody's going to be able to do it alone, and if you wait to figure that out, then it's going to be a lot harder along the way.
Well said. I think that you've several great pieces of advice that you've shared. Don't do it alone, and but don't be afraid to do something you haven't done before as well, right? So, and a lot of other great things.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for being here today, and best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you having me.